But we've been up to what we believe is a place called Marsh Farm.
It's
at
Marsh Farm,
Sandringham. We've been looking at it this week, the last couple of days, and a lot of security fences are going up. A lot of work's being done on getting this house into shape for a former prince.
Prince Andrew has reportedly done something that reveals more than any headline ever could. The drama has moved from Royal Lodge to a dusty farmhouse at Sandringham. According to multiple new claims, his long-awaited first visit to his future home did not go as planned. It ended in a fury.
We think that it should be, or we're led to believe, that he should be out of or into his permanent home by Easter. However, he could be out of Royal Lodge and into a temporary place by the time of his birthday, his 66th birthday, next month. These photos of Marsh Farm, it's a ramshackle place. It's run down. Is he going to be happy there, Arthur?
Not simple dissatisfaction, not quiet frustration, but what insiders are describing as a volcanic meltdown. That is the language being used by sources to outlets from the Mirror on down, who say Andrew was appalled, furious, and openly disdainful from the moment he arrived. This isn't about the quality of the renovations. They say it's about the undeniable crushing blow to his ego. After years of defiance, Prince Andrew may have finally been confronted with the physical manifestation of his fall from grace. And if that sounds severe, just wait until you hear the theories about what this move really is. According to these reports, the tantrum has less to do with the farmhouse itself and more to do with the humiliation it represents. One insider put it bluntly, saying he viewed it as a ramshackle insult, a deliberate downgrade meant to put him in his place. The same source claims Andrew's rage was directed at what they described as a calculated exile, and that this reaction proves he still believes he deserves the privileges of his old life. That is a sharp turn from the man who reportedly expected a more dignified soft landing. For years, Andrew Mountbatten Windsor resisted any consequence, fighting a relentless rear-guard action to preserve his status. That defiance raised eyebrows for years, especially as the king's patience wore thin, but he never conceded, at least not gracefully. And now, he's apparently exploding. But the timing and nature of this outburst lead directly to the bigger questions now swirling. First, the growing whispers that this entire Sandringham move might just be a PR stunt, a temporary show of discipline before he's quietly allowed to relocate to another country entirely. And second, how this fuels the increasingly strange and distant situation with Sarah Ferguson. If this exile is real, her reported separation looks like the final logical cut. If it's a stunt, what does her distance mean? Let's start with the visit itself. Prince Andrew recently traveled to Norfolk to inspect the property known as Marsh Farm. On paper, he was there on a practical mission, reviewing renovations, taking measurements. But multiple sources suggest the reality was a spectacle of resentment. The Mirror reported he was appalled, calling it pokey and ramshackle. One source went as far as to label his behavior a tantrum, a raw, unfiltered response to a reality he cannot charm or litigate his way out of. Instead, it's being framed as the inevitable eruption of a man who has run out of road. One confidant reportedly said Andrew believed his connections and history would ultimately shield him from a true downgrade, and that he benefited from a lifetime of exceptions. The same source suggested now the concrete reality is here, so is his true entitled character. That is a harsh assessment, but it reflects a view held by many royal commentators who have long argued his problem isn't scandal, but a lack of accountability. It also claims the palace wants this chapter closed, permanently. Associates, however, are said to be watching the foreign relocation talk closely. One source told reporters they are not buying that he'll settle quietly into farm life, pointing out how he has always operated on a global scale. And that raises the question of whether this is a real exile or an interlude. The man and his notoriety are a global issue. Even if he moves in, insiders suggest a permanent solution might require more geographic distance. One friend reportedly said Andrew would sooner start over abroad than play the part of a sidelined country squire. Another warned that containing him and the ongoing drama to the British countryside will not be simple. There's also the practical question of what this means for the long-term strategy. With Andrew required to leave Royal Lodge, the chosen solution appears to be hiding him in plain sight on a royal estate. That alone changes the dynamic. For years, his hold on Royal Lodge was a symbol of his lingering power. If he is now being moved to a controlled, lesser property, the palace's incentive to manage him diminishes significantly. Still, the reports are laced with speculation. No firm timeline for a foreign move exists, no official confirmation has been made about the state of the property, and sources caution that what looks like a final exile could be a strategic pause. But it also raises a harder question, and it's one many are already asking. What does this say about the monarchy's strategy? They didn't feel the need to remove him before, not during the worst of the Epstein fallout, and not even when his titles were removed. Through all of that, he remained a visible, nagging problem. Yet now, when the king is firmly consolidating his reign, that is when Andrew is finally being physically relocated. To some, that timing feels less about punishing Andrew and more about protecting the institution. Andrew has a long and complicated history of being a management problem, and that history has haunted the palace for decades. From one crisis to the next, the solution was always temporary, a band-aid. For critics, this farmhouse move fits an uncomfortable pattern, one where the real, permanent solution, a complete break, is still being avoided, whether that break is across the world or just from the headlines. Whether that is a fair assessment or not, it is a narrative that is gaining steam, and one the palace may struggle to control this time. There's also the unresolved thread of Sarah Ferguson. If Andrew is truly being exiled, her reported clean break looks like the final logical cut of his isolation. Sources say she will not be following him to Sandringham and is instead looking at her own options, possibly even near her daughter abroad. That alone changes the emotional calculus. For decades, their proximity was a fact. If that tie is finally cut, Andrew's incentive to maintain any pretense of reform diminishes completely. Some reports go even further, suggesting the foreign relocation talk is being fueled by his own circle, who see no future for him in the UK. Other insiders have echoed that the estate move is merely step one in a longer, quieter removal from the public eye. None of these plans are confirmed, and it remains unclear if this is an ending or just another messy chapter. This story could signal a genuine, harsh conclusion to his royal life, or it could be a carefully staged performance to make a later, softer landing palatable. Royal watchers have seen similar plays before, especially with problematic royals. What makes this moment different is the convergence, the lost home, the fractured partnership with Sarah, the daughter's distance, and now the explosive rejection of his designated refuge. Whether this is the final act of a tragedy or just another dramatic scene remains unclear, but for the first time, the narrative around Prince Andrew appears to be culminating in a physical, humiliating retreat. So, here's the question for you. Do you think this farmhouse is his genuine, permanent exile, or is it merely a holding cell before a quieter escape to another country? And what does the alleged tantrum and Sarah Ferguson's simultaneous exit tell you about the real man when all his royal buffers are gone? Let me know what you think.